A Reddit user was hiking through a remote stretch of desert with his wife when they came across something unexpected. An old, abandoned truck sitting alone among the rocks. A serial number suggested it dated back to the 1930s or 1940s, possibly an old Dodge. They took a few photos, briefly talked about how it might have ended up there, and then continued on their hike. At the time, nothing felt out of place, but later they realized they had missed something disturbing. In one of the images, partially hidden behind a rock, a man could be seen peeking out, watching them. They shared that they hadn't noticed anyone else in the area and truly believed they were completely alone. That detail changed everything. If it was just another hiker, why didn't he say anything? Why stay hidden? And why appear to be watching them instead of simply passing by? The couple made it out of the desert unharmed, but the unease lingered. To this day, they still don't know who that man was or what his intentions might have been. In July 2025, someone was driving along a deserted road when they saw this. A figure dressed in black was running across the highway before disappearing into the darkness. Local viewers later identified the figure as Abu Fanu, a desert jinn said to appear as a flickering light that lures travelers off the road at night. They believe the figure moved at high speed, with a stride that didn't match a normal human run. The figure vanished into an unlit stretch of road. While everything about this feels creepy and suspicious, it looks human to me. But what do you think? A man was hiking in the desert when he found something extraordinary. A snake with a single body that split into two fully formed heads. Each head moved independently, making the animal unpredictable and difficult to control. This rare condition, called bicephaly, occurs when two embryos partially form within one body, the same process that can create conjoined twins in humans. With two brains giving different commands, the snake risks tearing itself apart. How would you react seeing this? In November 2024, a woman named Kelsey Pittman suddenly went silent. The 33-year-old from North Carolina stopped answering calls. Messages went unread. Days turned into weeks, and her family knew something was wrong. They reported her missing. For months, there were no answers. Then, on February 9th, 2025, nearly 2,300 miles away, a discovery reignited the case. Deputies in Inyo County, California, were called to investigate an abandoned vehicle near the edge of the desert, close to Slab City, an isolated off-grid community bordering Death Valley National Park. The car was a 2009 Chevrolet HHR. It was registered to Kelsey Pittman. The vehicle was intact, no signs of a struggle, no note, no indication of where she had gone next. Search teams moved in quickly. Drones scanned the desert from above. Search and rescue crews combed the ground. Despite days of searching, not a trace of Kelsey was found. Months passed. Then, in July 2025, the story took an unexpected turn. Authorities announced that Kelsey Pittman had been found alive, not in California, but in Colorado, 3 states away. Officials released very few details, citing privacy concerns. Where she had been, how she survived, why her car was left behind, none of it was explained. The case was officially closed, but the questions remain. What happened during those missing months is known only to her. But one thing matters most. She was found alive. A woman was hiking alone from work late one night. The street was quiet. Too quiet. So she took out her phone and began to record. And this happened. A small girl appeared in the middle of the road. She wasn't sure if it was just a child. The girl looked unnaturally pale and kept staring straight at her. And why would a child be alone on the street at night? Terrified, the woman turned and ran, never knowing for sure whether what she saw was real or something paranormal. Reddit user Weird Old World was walking through the Palpa Desert near Nazca in Peru to film ancient geoglyphs for a YouTube channel when they came across human skulls. One skull had a rope threaded through a hole in its forehead, which felt especially disturbing. As more bones became visible, the area began to resemble an unmarked burial site rather than an empty stretch of desert. What happened here? Let's hope the discovery was reported to the authorities. A group of friends were camping in the Alcua Desert near the Jimenid meteor shower around 2:30 a.m. One person walked alone up a nearby dune to take photos in near total darkness, with only distant car lights far to the right and the night sky above. From the top of the dune, the desert ahead was completely black. When the phone light briefly turned on, a dark shape appeared very close on the slope. The person panicked and ran back downhill, even leaving their sandals behind. They later searched the area, but found nothing. 2 weeks later, while reviewing photos from that night, one image showed a large dark shape stretching down from the dune, where no one had been. Reddit user HappySoul6720 posted the image to Reddit. Many commenters argued it was just one of their shadows, but according to the poster, that explanation is impossible. Two friends were riding mountain bikes while one of them filmed. The rider behind slowed down, letting the rider in front pull ahead. When the camera moved forward again, the rider ahead, Jeremy, was gone. His bike was still upright on the trail, stopped in place. There was no response and no sign of him. The video ended on the empty trail and the abandoned bike.
Whoa!
No further footage was released, and no information about Jeremy ever surfaced. Was it just a prank? A man said he recorded a UFO in the sky. The video shows two small objects far away, holding still above the horizon. They stay in place long enough to rule out fast planes. Then both objects flash at the same time that look like mid-air blasts, but no sound follows, which suggests extreme distance or unknown technology. But after that, nothing remains in the sky, not even debris or smoke.
Right up there, you see it? Yeah, it's above the rock.
The clip ends with no clear answer and no way to confirm what vanished. On the morning of June 23, 2021, Daniel Robinson, a 24-year-old geologist, arrived at a remote worksite in Buckeye, Arizona. It was around 9 a.m. Daniel was working for Matrix New World, assigned to a Weber Water Resources project near Cactus Road and Sun Valley Parkway, an isolated stretch of desert far from neighborhoods or heavy traffic. According to a Weber employee, Daniel left the worksite that morning and never returned. At first, it didn't immediately raise alarms, but as hours turned into days with no contact, concern grew. Daniel's father, David Robinson, reported him missing. For weeks, search teams combed the Arizona desert. Then, on July 19, 2021, nearly a month after Daniel vanished, a shocking discovery was made. Daniel's Jeep Renegade was found overturned in a ravine, roughly 3 miles from the worksite. The vehicle showed signs of a serious crash. Nearby, investigators found Daniel's clothes and personal belongings scattered around the scene. But Daniel himself was nowhere to be found. Later, a private investigator stated that data suggested the crash occurred around 1 p.m. on the day Daniel disappeared, hours after he was last seen. Search efforts continued for months, led tirelessly by Daniel's father. In 2023, the Buckeye Police Department released their full case file to the public, but even with thousands of pages of reports, data, and analysis, no definitive answers emerged. To this day, Daniel Robinson has never been found. And if anyone watching might know something, even the smallest detail, it could matter. Sometimes all it takes is one tip for the truth to finally come to light. This man was waiting for a friend in a small desert town when he noticed something strange and started recording.
Oh, I found a glitched person. Just wait.
In the short clip, a woman can be seen moving her legs as if she's running, yet she appears to stay in the exact same spot. The footage is low quality and only lasts a few seconds, making the movement difficult to interpret clearly. Some viewers online suggested she was simply running in place, but that raises an obvious question. Why would someone do that in the middle of the road? Others believe it's nothing more than an optical illusion caused by camera angle and distance. With so little footage to go on, there's no definitive answer. So what do you think? Deep in the deserts of southern Peru lie the Nazca lines, massive drawings etched into the earth by the Nazca culture around 2,000 years ago. They depict animals, plants, and geometric shapes that are only fully visible from the air. From the ground, the lines do not form complete images. The Nazca had no known way to see them from above. Some researchers link the lines to religion or astronomy, while others suggest connections to water or rain rituals. Yet none of these ideas fully explain their immense size, perfect accuracy, or how the design stayed aligned over long distances. To this day, both the method and purpose of the Nazca lines remain a mystery. In October 2021, a man was exploring the desert near Area 51 when he recorded strange lights coming from the mountains.
I am now in the desert of Area 51, and I was getting some weird lights out in the distance. The area that I'm at right now is completely abandoned, not a soul in sight.
As he moved closer, the area appeared completely abandoned. Then, he found something disturbing.
And look what I found over here. Inside this hole, I found the most creepiest thing. There is a cow inside here. Look at that. Is that insane or what?
There were no marks or signs showing how it got there.
I was also getting a mysterious light coming from the mountains, but I can't seem to get it. I keep flashing my light, but I'll keep you updated if anything happens. Can't wait to finish this video.
The lights appeared again in the distance and vanished each time he tried to film them. Something was definitely off about this place. In 1953, the United States government built a fake town in the Nevada desert with mannequins placed inside real houses to represent families. The project, called Operation Doorstep, tested how homes, cars, and people would react to a nuclear blast. The houses were furnished, and mannequins were set in living rooms and at tables to mimic daily life, giving an oddly terrifying look. A nuclear weapon was then detonated near the town, sending a shockwave through the area. Buildings were damaged, windows broke, and the mannequins stayed in place during the test. The mannequins, along with the clothes they were wearing, had been provided by J.C. Penney. After the detonation, debris from the destroyed site was cleared, and mannequins were removed and later displayed in a downtown Las Vegas J.C. Penney store. Back in 1999, Robert Bogucki, an American firefighter, set out alone in one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth, Australia's Great Sandy Desert. Before leaving, Bogucki told authorities he planned to cycle across the desert, relying on cache supplies and natural navigation. He expected the journey to last several weeks, but made it clear he was traveling solo by choice. The plan was risky, but intentional. But as the weeks passed, concern began to grow. Bogucki failed to check in as expected, and no one had seen him emerge from the desert. That's when the search began. Soon after, investigators made a disturbing discovery. On a remote desert track, they found Bogucki's blue bicycle abandoned. Nearby were his clothes and empty water bottles, all left behind. Even more alarming, footprints led away from the bike, straight into the open desert. That was the moment authorities realized something had gone very wrong. A massive search operation was launched, covering vast stretches of desert by land and air. But the risk to rescuers quickly became extreme. Eventually, the first search was called off due to cost and danger. Many believed the desert had claimed him, but they didn't give up. A second search was launched. This time, search teams found more of his belongings, and something even more chilling. A large help sign spelled out with stones on the desert floor. Against all odds, on day 43, a helicopter crew spotted movement in a rocky gully. It was Robert Bugucki, alive. Severely dehydrated, weakened and injured, but alive. He was rescued and airlifted to safety, ending one of Australia's largest and most astonishing desert search operations. In the deserts of Namibia, people began noticing strange circles in the ground, perfectly round patches where no grass would grow. At first they thought nothing of it, but more circles kept appearing, scattered across the landscape, sometimes where grass had been growing just days before. There were no footprints around them, no signs that anything had disturbed the soil. The land inside the circles simply died and never recovered. Locals started to wonder what could cause something so precise, so silent. Whatever it was didn't leave evidence. Some believe the circles may be caused by plants and soil competing for scarce water in the desert, possibly influenced by termites, creating these eerie natural patterns over time. But no one truly knows for sure. In November 2025, police released footage from New Year's Eve 2021 when deputies were called to a fire on Table Mesa Road north of Phoenix. At the bottom of a ravine, they discovered something else.
The mannequin? You can't tell?
What initially appeared to be a mannequin wearing fishnet stockings was later linked to evidence on the cliff above, suggesting a body had been dragged and thrown down.
I'm 95% sure it's his body.
Once the fire was extinguished, the remains were identified as 41-year-old Benjamin Anderson, who had called a friend earlier that night saying he felt strange and lightheaded before abruptly hanging up. His Lexus was later found burned in a nearby college parking lot, and in September 2025, a father and son were charged in connection with the case, despite investigators finding no link between them and Ben. After midnight in 2017, a family was driving along a remote desert road when a bright light appeared at the far end of the pavement. The glow stayed in the same position as their car moved, forcing them to keep driving toward it for nearly 10 minutes. The light neither grew closer nor faded, making its distance impossible to judge and the road ahead feel unsafe. There was no sound and no visible source around it in the darkness. With nothing to explain what they were seeing, the family slowed down and eventually pulled over, while the light remained fixed in front of them. Was it just another vehicle traveling ahead of them? They didn't think so. To them, it felt unnatural. In 2011, a young couple set out on what was supposed to be a simple 3-day camping trip in the vast Utah desert. Sarah and Andrew packed light but planned carefully. Maps, water, basic gear, and an old SUV to carry them deep into the quiet backcountry. But when 3 days passed and they had not returned, concern quickly turned into alarm. Their family reported them missing, and search efforts began almost immediately. Not long after, their vehicle was discovered, parked alone on a sand-blasted desert road. The doors were unlocked, the keys were still inside. There were no clear footprints, no supplies scattered nearby, and no indication of which direction they had gone. Search teams combed the surrounding area, but there was no sign of Sarah, no sign of Andrew. Years passed with no answers, until 2019. That year, a group exploring a long-abandoned mine near the area where the couple had vanished made a chilling discovery. Deep inside a narrow shaft, in a dark chamber sealed by fallen rock from the inside, they found human remains near a wall. How did they end up there, and why had they entered the mine? Those questions have never been fully answered. In 1984, NASA and the FAA remotely flew a Boeing 720 into the Mojave Desert to test crash survival. The plane carried 113 crash dummies and 76,000 pounds of test fuel, and after 4 years of preparation, it took off on December 1st. During the final descent, the aircraft drifted off course and passed a point where it could no longer abort. It hit the runway at full power, struck steel posts, and an engine ruptured, sending burning fuel into the cabin. A fire burned for over 1 hour. Still, about 25% of the occupants were judged likely to survive, leading to new safety rules. In the Mojave Desert near Baker, California, stands a mysterious welded iron structure. It is 8 feet long and shaped like an hourglass with both ends open. The structure is bolted to 2 large boulders on a rocky slope. No records identify who built it or why it was placed there. An archived webpage from 2002 confirms it existed by the mid-1980s, but the dry desert climate makes its age difficult to measure. Since the structure has no markings, tools, or signs of use, it remains in the same location today without explanation. A Reddit user named PristineServe4584 was exploring an old graveyard in the middle of the Chilean desert, about 200 kilometers from Iquique, when they came across this. They didn't disturb any grave, it was simply lying there. The cemetery contained graves that were more than 100 years old. Confused by the discovery, they posted it to Reddit, unsure why a symbol like this would appear in such a remote place. One commenter explained the land once sat near Colonia Dignidad, a sealed German settlement with a dark and well-documented past. German migrants and sympathizers were present in Chile long before the colony was officially founded, and the symbol was commonly used by Nazi supporters in the early 20th century. Colonia Dignidad later became Villa Bavaria after its leaders fled justice, but the history tied to the land remains unsettling. YouTuber Outer Range ventured deep into the mountains to uncover hidden pieces of history. While exploring the desert, he came across an unusual-looking rock.
This isn't recent.
The stone contains multiple deep, evenly spaced holes and appears to have been deliberately shaped. The purpose of the object remains unknown. It may be a marker, a tool, or something with cultural significance. Some believe it could date back to the Spanish expeditions in the 1540s, while others think it's more recent. No confirmed explanation exists. This photo was captured in the middle of the Wadi el Hatin desert in Egypt, and it shows something that feels almost impossible. A whale skeleton lying exposed in the middle of the desert. The site is known as the Valley of the Whales, a protected UNESCO World Heritage Site. At first glance, it doesn't make sense, but these fossils tell a story that stretches back over 41 million years. Long before sand dunes covered this land, the entire region was once a shallow ocean. Over millions of years, tectonic plate movement slowly lifted the seabed above sea level. Sand and sediment buried the skeletons, preserving them in place. And much later, erosion carved through the rock, revealing the remains once again beneath the open desert sky. What looks unbelievable is actually a reminder of just how much the Earth can change over time. And for more desert encounters, let's watch this video together.